gonna put something out. And no, I'm not gonna do that no matter how much money you offer. Like, it's disgusting. You Canadians,
You
I
didn't
think
see,
you're behind all the spam.
when you see the cash in front of you, you'll do
Admittedly, I've held the bag with the cash, and you're right. It's really hard to say no once you have the sack of cash.
a
But
check for
still,
20 grand or $12,000 in 20s and 50s can have the same amount of power.
For the audience and viewers, one of the topics today will be everybody has a price.
Yeah.
and really, so going back to the go away price is one of the things that makes you realize you're actually being successful as a lawyer, because when you're a baby lawyer, Franz mentioned earlier, and doing the traffic tickets for $200. Man, as a baby lawyer, $200, $200. You got somebody that's going to show up. My grandmother will get out of the grave and throttle me if I do not take super easy money begging to get into my pocket. It's hard as you grow as a business to be like, I just can't get involved in your ridiculously small, because I got these other things I got to go do. But a side of that coin is the walk away, and you see clients come in, you're like, I need to quote them enough money that they will leave, or if they pay it, I will actually do it.
See, I try not to turn my nose up at the little things. It's like one of our financial people was it gave us the thing that depending on what you want and all that sort of thing. And I just turned 44. They were like, you have to make X amount of money for the next 19 years before you even consider retiring. And I was like,
otherwise you're doomed.
That's impossible.
Yeah.
Like
you just need to save $17,000 a month to be comfortable when you're older. And it's my problem with all sale. Fear is the easiest way to motivate anybody. You have an automatic necessity in your life that is ingrained in you for self-preservation and to keep your whatever is going.
$17,000 a month. And that's the other thing is you hear all the time. Like there was a classic story about Ed McMahon, who had a ton of money when he retired. But some people, they just have lived their money. They live too.
Oh yeah, no, Ed. Well, it was if you won the $1 million, it was how much was it a month in the taxes. But when you get to some of this retirement planning stuff, and I'm 48 and I've got one kid, they really do. Well, Josh, if you don't do this, you're going to end up in the fucking gutter. And I'm like, whoa. Not gutter. I do okay. Like,
Josh, I'm coming to take your house. You'd be like, but I pay for it.
And they're just like, well, Josh, I assume you want to eat food and not just gruel from the government. If you don't save this tax deferred money. And it's like, well, screw you. I've been pretty good with saving. Nope. I swear, the day of retirement, they're gonna be like, well, you missed that one by 1,400 million trillion dollars. You're doomed. And just remember this, everybody. When you die, don't pay your credit card bills. Tell your inheritors, do not pay your unsecured debts, because arguably they are uncollectible due to your death. But hey, are we going to do an intro? Because
I've got to do the intro. Nikki, she clicked on the old link, so just give it a second here. Tell us other shit that we shouldn't pay for after we die. Well, who cares? It's gonna be my family's
I will
problem.
say this. So life insurance gets me angry because the whole yeah, Derek, how comfortable do you want your loved ones?
Yeah,
after you're dead.
Moderately,
that gets me pissed. I'm always like, I don't give a fuck. I'm gonna be dead.
That's what it's gonna be. Franz's son will be there, and he'd be like, "Oh, we get the house, we get the car." He'd be like, "I got 3 mortgages."
So the running joke with my son is, my son will say, he's 9 now. Happy birthday, Fisher.
Happy birthday, buddy.
Yeah. He'll say, "Hey, when you die, I get all your stuff." And I said, "Or your brothers and sisters."
Yep. Oh.
And he'll go, "Wait, what?" And I said, "You may have a brother or sister. You may have no. You may have a brother and sister out there that we don't know about." And he goes, "Huh?" And I go, "Anything's possible. Daddy had a rough run for like 20 years. Pay attention
to health classes coming up here soon. You're going to learn all about this. I tell Sophie fairly regularly that you never know when I'm going to want to have a kid with my girlfriend now, and she's 13, but I can always add to the people that are going to take the estate. It is not 100% hers.
My 9-year-old simultaneously loves the idea of having a sibling and is terrified at the idea of a sibling just like manifesting. Like,
but you also have to keep in mind, assuming you want to retire at like 65 and you live to be 95, like all that money isn't going to.
Let's be honest.
Yeah,
Nicole is going to last decades, right? Nicole, young, beautiful, intelligent, probably going to make it until 90s.
She's going to live to be 500. That was 60, the name of her last podcast.
62, 67. That's a good run for me. That's a great run.
Doug and I have numbers in our mind where it's like, no. I'm not planning for anything after that, because that's very slight. You don't understand how much I drank before I quit drinking.
So and
drink 90 proof gin like water,
guys.
Hey, Nikki.
Nikki, how are you?
Conversation, and I'm not quite sure I understand what the hell is going on.
Okay, yeah, we definitely have to take it back a second. So.
I was like, what?
Well, what is it that makes the South spicy? Is it the food? Is it the nightlife? Or the brilliance of the man that is the pride of Louisiana when he's not rocking in the courtroom, running his own law firm, visiting churches all over the world? He's a staple on Court TV, as well as a number of other news outlets, killing it on TV and on his podcast and on social media on Talk 107.3 with Brian Haldane. He is the incredible Franz Borghardt. Joined, as always, by the Truth or Dare podcast Hall of Famer, a mere 2 states over, also incredible in the courtroom on social media and running his own law firm. You know him from Court TV, CNN, ATL News 1, Scripps, and a million other places when they need good advice. He is the deep-digging, tell-it-like-it-is Georgian badass that is Joshua Schiffer. And joining our family for the first time, well, maybe using her BA in sociology to figure out what's wrong with us, when she's not busy starring in hit movies like Silencer, Open Marriage, and Butch vs. Sundance, or rocking on TV in 2.5 Men, Sangre Negra, A Girl is a Gun, and 100 other great movies and TV shows, when she's not killing it on her own brand new podcast, Longevity Junkie, about all the ways you could live a longer, healthier life, she is just being herself, a true, honest-to-goodness influencer that we all want to grow up to be. She is the incredible Nikki Leigh.
We very clearly do not get a pre-show memo as we're discussing how early we're going to die before someone with a live-long podcast. Great job there, producer Derek.
Thank you.
That's some fine work you're doing.
It's all about the spontaneity and just flying by the seat of your pants.
First of all,
it's a good thing because I have a big seat. And it's wonderful to fly with it. Let me just tell you, you may want first class.
Happy belated birthday, Nikki.
Yes.
I was texting with you on Friday. You said it was your birthday. And you were like, I don't like to make a big deal out of it, so I didn't say anything. But then,
thank you. No, thank you. I love it. I just didn't. I don't know. I think it's still one of those things where I'm afraid to plan anything in case nobody comes. I don't know. Maybe
I've always done that.
Whoa, wait. Nikki, you're not supposed to plan your own party. You're supposed to have friends and loved ones.
Well, there you go.
There's got to be someone in your life out there that's like, nope, we're going to go celebrate Nikki. And this is what we're going to, like, you've got to have someone out there, some of your buddies.
It's kind of funny, too, because she's famous. So you might have one of those friends who'd be like, oh, Tiger Woods is coming and Ben Affleck's coming and all this. And then afterwards, it's like somebody else shows up. You're like, Tiger's not coming. Ben's not coming. He had better stuff.
It's Derek, the pool guy from Canada.
I think people are just kind of confused. I feel like everybody thinks I already have something to do. That's why nobody ever approaches me. And
they're so cool that
that's what I tell myself. That's what I tell myself when I'm not invited to stuff.
It's the privilege of It's the privilege of incredibly good-looking people, because it makes a wall where people are like, nope, can't even approach. They're obviously having that good a time and are that one. And really, you realize they're normal people.
And yet, in the creepy world that is social media and stalking, the creepy people never seem to have that problem with saying, oh, this is a very beautiful or very popular human being. I'm just going to stalk them now. Like, it's like, ugh.
We just can't figure it out.
There's no middle ground. There's no Josh. There's no middle ground.
That's the problem with being, with the whole influencer thing is, you hear a lot of good stuff. You get a lot of great opportunities and stuff. But Nikki, I could imagine that you've had a few nightmare stories, I would imagine.
Yeah, I have. Yeah, definitely. Some scary stuff. People showing up when I didn't expect it.
Yeah, it's weird. Sorry. That was an alleged terrorist calling me. literally. She's not that terrorism. She's very nice. It's
terrorist with a smaller case T.
Listen, she's very nice, and she's only been accused in one giant terrorist thing with a bunch of other people, and lives under an assumed name and all kinds of other stuff. But
so Nikki, we have a recurring theme to our podcast episodes where we believe that human beings have become dandelions and soft. And like whenever we have an opportunity to point out that like maybe Josh is sweet little lowercase t terrorist, maybe it's not her, maybe it's that society just needs to get a little bit thicker skin.
Okay. I can roll with that.
Yeah, this may not be that. Yeah, no, there's.
But in this case, that's not that at all. So
no,
this isn't one where I'm like, nah, they're all great. Like, come on, they're just sweet. No, there's some bad stuff that was happening.
Something's happening.
Yeah,
I got a 16-year-old junior.
Well, it's a family.
16-year-old junior in high school who quoted on social media with reference to one of her teachers a Cat in the Hat line from a movie. It's like the line "I will in you," and it specifically she tracks it from the movie, and she got expelled for a semester for that.
Really?
Yes.
There ain't squat, at least in Georgia, that you can do with the expulsions.
No. Nikki, I'm an attorney and I represent people accused of stuff, and she was accused of threatening, like in 2024 climate of like school shootings and all that. She's accused of threatening a teacher by making an Instagram post. And the Instagram post was if I don't get out of this test, I will end Mrs. Smith. But it was just so ridiculous. But in this climate, she got expelled for a semester.
It's like, it's so touchy. I don't even know how to navigate it anymore, to be honest with you.
Well, you have to be sort of more careful because I know you have a lot of followers and stuff. So is there a lot of legwork involved in when you are posting, thoughts or pictures, anything like that? Because obviously you got to be really careful about who you don't want to turn off.
This is very true. Thankfully, my platform is very much about like gratitude and health and things of that nature. So yeah, very, very positive. So I'm actually very grateful for that because it's all naturally what I put out there and what I want to influence in the world. So it's not like I'm somebody who's out there trying to ruffle feathers or really make something controversial to, spike up my likes and or just traffic. So I think I'm walking a thicker line than most.
And really the positive stuff works, like in working in an industry that is filled with all kinds of trauma. Like if you want trauma, get involved in justice. Like it's just awful. That's why we're there. There are people that are always looking down and there are people that are always looking up on their pathway. And the people that are always looking up, regardless of the situation, and going out and finding the ability to see the win and the silver lining, that makes for such a happier life. And it's not just in your job, it's your entire life, your personality, your relationships with other people. The dour, downward looking people, you're doomed. You're going to manifest exactly what you're throwing out in the world. If you put out positive, it's good.
Yeah. So definitely manifesting. So I'm always trying to just, exactly what he was saying, like find the silver lining. That's what I'm all about, because otherwise I feel like I deal with so much negativity. I feel like we all deal with so much negativity in the world, and it's kind of like it surrounds us, and we have to be the light in the dark, Yep. So that's our responsibility. And I take that pretty damn seriously, and it's become my entire brand, really.
And that's it's how leadership really manifests, because it's why great leaders, truly great leaders, are so positive. If you remind people constantly about the crappiness that is out there in the universe, nobody wants to go revel in that. Or if they do, they want to revel in it for all the angry reasons out there. Go be positive. Surround yourself with positivity. Then your crew is positive.
Mm-hmm. So this is what I love about Brene Brown. And yes, Derek, I read Brene Brown. Brene Brown has pivoted and is now doing executive business leadership. She wrote a book on leadership. And basically she's making even bigger money. Like, I mean, like people were reading her stuff and going to her seminars because she was talking about vulnerability like she was one of the first ones that was like really selling vulnerability. I'm not perfect and it's okay not to be perfect. But now that she's pivoted and she's doing like corporate, like, and the corporate world is seeing what she's doing. And like her leadership book is basically like, let me take all these principles about being a better human being and put them on top of a platform of corporate structure. And it works. Like and it's.
Yeah, I'm aware of that.
Well, you know what I like. We'll talk a little bit about Nikki's podcast because I listened to there was a trailer, then there was an episode, and it's interesting because it's easy. I'm gonna say it's easy to be healthy and all this sort of thing when you have nothing because I just think that like we all make a relatively good living. We can go out and like you're a great case because with all the acting and all that. I don't know if anybody out there listening, and I know Josh and Franz have been on TV. If you've ever approached a craft services table, I have never seen anything like it in my entire life. And the one that I was on, it was a little while ago, was a movie that had Vanessa Williams in it. Well, I looked over, and there was every single sandwich and pasta and that you could imagine. So I grabbed a whole bunch of stuff and I sat down. A guy came over and he's like, "We got a couple of trucks outside. There's a pizza truck, there's a taco truck," and I was like, "There's more food, there's more, and it's free." So when you were talking about all this exercise stuff, like you have every opportunity to kind of do everything you want, but somehow you've managed to rein it in. And that's why I like the podcast because it comes from somebody who could be heavy and just doing nothing as opposed to the amazing thing that you have going. So do you want to tell it? Because the title of the first one was great. Is the first person to live to 500 already been born?
I mean, look, to be healthy, especially in this world, is a daily choice. And it really is. And not only a daily choice, but a moment to moment choice, honestly. And you just have to align with your ultimate goal. If your ultimate goal is to be healthy, then you have to ask each time you are confronted with something like, is that my why? Like it has to be your real bold, bolted to the ground why. Like it cannot be like a flimsy flag in the air that's going to topple over. It really has to be firmly planted. And so, yes, going to the craft tables part, that is so hard. And I've been in the industry for like, oh my God, 12 years now. And the craft services have definitely changed. I mean, it used to be even worse where it was like donuts and everything processed and only processed food because people would, the people doing the craft services would literally just try and go buy bulk for everybody, and there would be no vegetable tray, or there would be no fruits, or there would be only sodas and energy drinks and
Can I get a water? No, have a Mountain Dew.
Right, like not very much. Water might be scarce, honest to God. I mean, think about it. Water is one thing. So you just get like a 24-pack of water as opposed to, oh, let's get the soda, let's get the energy drink, let's get this packet, let's get the fruit punch. I mean, that's already, multiplied. So your supply, there's less water. And so, yeah, it has to be a real conscious choice, and it's gotten better. I will say, it has gotten better because, there's more gluten-free friendly things out there. There's more dairy-free things out there, or there's just more awareness, I think, too, in the health and the food industry. So I also bring my own food.
What is we always talk about food on here. What is your favorite meal? With like this, let's just say your favorite healthy meal and your favorite not healthy meal.
Okay. Ooh, wow. I mean, honest to God, I'm like the biggest foodie ever. So there's not like to pick a favorite is more like a buffet.
All right, then. All right. So
one of everything.
Traveled, you've done lots of there is no best meal. There just isn't. What are a couple of your most memorable meals, not necessarily because of who you were with or what was happening, but the construction and the food created that core memory that brings you back somewhere, kind of like poetry, where it's food that brings you, it's transportation.
Well, because you just said meal. So I'm a huge Michelin star restaurant goer. So there has been quite a few in my repertoire. One was in Vegas, actually. There's a Michelin star restaurant called Guy Savoy. And the original Guy Savoy is in Paris or yes, exactly. And I remember that one in particular. It was like a 13-course meal. I mean, they even had like this beautiful bread, bread cart coming out that was just divine. And everything was just so decadent. It was like, I mean, I asked for like 3 of this one soup, I remember. And I was just like, I can't get enough. Even to the point where I made my parents go because they love Vegas. So I had my parents go and I had a whole comped meal for them and made sure that they had their first ever Michelin star experience. They didn't even know what a Michelin restaurant was. So that
or what a 13-course meal looks like.
Right.
That's a power meal.
Yeah. And my dad will not really, he's not the one to try like he's gonna see an oyster in front of him and be like, not sure about that. Or, or just anything that's new. He's not really one to try it. I even try, I'm like, here, have some different type of vegetables, not just Brussels sprouts. And he's like, I don't like that. I don't know what it is. So it's like, it never happens. So, but I was very, very impressed. Even my mom was like, he literally tried everything because he was so in awe of, a Michelin experience. He had never done it. So
now, which hotel is that? Is that Aria?
It's in Caesars. It's in Caesars.
It's in Caesars.
Over by the chapel.
Yeah,
like the second floor.
We're actually staying right across the street from there, the 3 of us, in a month from now. So that's interesting because we were trying to get. I don't know if you've ever been to Golden Steer, but apparently we tried to book that like 2 months ago and it's full.
Oh, we're gonna go. It's the old man classic clubby.
That's gonna be one where you slip the hostess like a 50 or whatever, and we're gonna get a table. Yeah, so in my old age, so I'm like Josh, like Nikki, I'm a foodie. I love food, love it, and I love. Look, I can get behind some bougie like gastronomy, and I'm all about it. In my old age, though, I'm about nostalgia. So, like, if you were to ask me the same question, Josh, my mind immediately goes Sevilla, Spain. Outside of the cathedral, there is a restaurant in a alley, and the tables are in the alley. So it's you don't sit in the restaurant.
Typical Italy.
Yeah. And so you're in this. You're right next to this beautiful cathedral in an old Europe, Spain town, and I'm like eating there, and I'm eating seafood paella with squid ink, and it's like I've never had it, and so the color of the food, it's like the ambiance and all that. There's smells and all that. The core memory in that, like it may have been a 6 on a scale of 1 to 10 in terms of quality of food. It's probably a 7, but the nostalgia factor brings that 6 up to a 10. And
I think that's what curating a really memorable meal is it's all the little things, and it's what all that combination brings to you. The French have the concept of the terroir, where it's everything. It's the land, it's the air, and it's how it goes together. It's why I'm so happy with the locavore movement that we've seen over the last several years, where the peach was grown actually has a result on its flavor. And if you're going to have it paired with a particular cheese so you really get that sense of presence and place that's involved in a truly fine meal, whether it's in a fine dining Michelin kind of joint, or if it is the classic, trailer park, home cooking, find it on the side of a road that criminal got.
I love a Dodger dog, or like one of those like hot dogs on the carts right outside the Staples Center, or it's at a club in LA. I mean, I'm all about it.
Absolutely. When I went to this fancy training program back in 2007, I really wanted to stop being a lawyer and go start a food truck. And I came incredibly close to being like, nope, screw it. I don't want any more crime. I'm going to go sell barbecue and coleslaw and just love life. My long time semi-retirement plan is running the crappy diner that loses money, but everybody can go hang out there all morning. Because
you know what the problem is?
I loved it. Like, I want a bunch of young people hanging out, talking. I want to cook them breakfast.
The problem is going to be with food, much like with acting. Is I know what would drive me nuts is when people leave you a negative review for no purpose. Like, again, with Nikki, with your positivity and all that, do you have to, like, if a review comes out on something that you did, maybe it's not the best review ever, like, does that kind of keep you up at night, or you just say, tomorrow's another day, sort of thing?
I think in the beginning it was it was traumatizing, right? It was like, oh my God, I was a people pleaser back in the day. And I feel like I've done a lot of recovery on that. And also a lot of work on self-love and self-worth too, because comments and negative reviews, like we're saying, are just becoming more and more common. But I think definitely I had to, that's, I think, why I have such a presence in the positivity space, is because all of that is what I had to keep kind of telling myself and kept living in. I had to be like, no, like, I'm doing the best that I can, or this was great. I know the circumstances. And it's things like that, like really knowing much more behind it, and knowing that you have like me, just as a singular person, doesn't have a lot of influence on a lot of the things that happen. Like, especially in a movie, like, there is production, there is wardrobe, there is, money things. There's a lot of, oh, do you hear that? Okay. Sorry. It was a, fire truck, but, there's just so many more things going on in the background than I can control. So once I started to really understand that, then I started to be able to release it and not hold it to be so personal.
So I'm a big believer that you need negative reviews. And let me say this, if you have nothing, and it's a little bit different in acting in Josh and I's industry, like law firms, right? If I had 100 reviews and all of them were 5-star Google reviews, at some point someone goes, this smells funny. There's no way he has 100 5-star Google reviews. I'm a big fan of Ryan Holiday and The Obstacle is the Way, the Marcus Aurelius. Like, I'm going to make the most out of it. So if I have 50 reviews and 2 of them are like bashing me, and the other 48 are like, hey, this is a good guy, and this, that, and the other, I cherish the 2 bad ones because it's real, right? A 4.8 review or stat is better almost than a 5.0 stat because it's real then.
So Josh and Franz aren't too much in their own heads, because I did Google you both and check the Google reviews a while ago, and you both have a 4.9. They're all positive for both of you except for one.
But here's the thing that's important about that. You need the bad in the world to get context. If your life is all roses and perfect, it's boring. You don't have the ability to recognize.
Well, there really is no such thing. There is no such thing existing only on one polar end. Like, there's yin and yang. That's why there's yin and yang. Like, there only is light because of the dark. There's only something positive because we understand the negative. So it can't even exist without any of the negative reviews or whatnot. But it's also just understanding, like you were saying, context and things like that. Like, if there's a negative review on a restaurant, it could have been so many things. And as long as the reader or the person reading the comments understands that, then they're going to understand that this is reality. And they're just going to have to go for, the ballpark. I have to say this. I was in an Uber like the other night or something, and the driver was so cool. And I'm sitting there and he goes, I just want to let you know that you have a 4.9. And I was like, of what? And he's like, your star rating, it's not 5 stars. And I was like, but it's a 4.9. That's rad. Isn't that good? And he's like, I don't know. Honestly, some people were really going to look at that and not like it. And I was like, well, I don't friggin' know when any negative thing happened, but I can't control it.
Makes me want to. So I've got and I won't name the group, but I've got one of these reservation memberships where that helps you make reservations online. I know the point of sale has a book on me because I go to a lot of restaurants and they're all tracked, and it goes back well over a decade. And I know the restaurants have this whole summer. I want that so bad. because I walk into some restaurants and they will bend over backwards. It's Mr. Schiffer this, Mr. Schiffer that. I'm like, they clearly read the positive one. And I want to know exactly how much they know. Same with airplanes and airlines. I think Delta must love me because they really treat me awesome. And I want to
keep just sick of complaints. I think with Delta.
So I used to do
your job.
I used to do a local radio show here, and we did a bit where we would say how to be a better diner. Like, not how to be a better restaurant, like how can you as a customer be better? And we had people from the restaurant industry chime in, but like the topics were like common sense, like, and it was all about like expectations. Like, it was like,
stop saying like.
Yeah, like you can
I'll be your dad.
I know. You can smite the waitress for slow service if it's really the waitress's fault, but it may just be you're in a room full of 100 guests and the restaurant is at jam-packed capacity, and you're going to get your food.
One chef,
yeah, and you're going to
something happen.
You're going to get your food. It's going to be delicious, but maybe lower the expectations a little bit. Like
people when they're out in public also don't know how to eat in a restaurant. If you are going to a restaurant to show everybody how cool you are, you're totally missing the point. I was married to a long time to a woman in high-end banking, and you would see these brokers get into the most, I've got the smallest weenie in the world fight over who gets to pay for this and and it was like, all right, guys, I bet that makes for the absolute worst experience as a server and a restaurant, because they treat people terribly, thinking it makes them look important. And it's like, dude, you're bossing around someone who's going to bring you your food. How little do you have to be to get some sort of joy over bossing someone around? Like, if you treat servers poorly, I'm going to have a very dim view of you, just as a general rule. If you treat servers like shit, you can kind of fuck off.
I mean, it could be a waiter or anybody. You should just treat people with kindness, period.
The irony, Nikki, is being nice to people is actually easier than being like the other way. I just find that it's like, if I'm just nice, that doesn't take a lot of emotional bandwidth. Like, and if I don't want to be nice to you, there's probably a couple of steps away from me just saying, okay, well, I'm not going to be around you. So instead of being mean, I'm just going to be nice to somebody else. It's so much easier just to be not a douche.
I wanted to go back. I wanted to go back to something Nikki said a minute ago when she found out that she had a 4.9. Because I know we got to get to our TV draft here in a sec, because I know Josh has got to be on TV.
I got you guys stay on.
They actually had a great Black Mirror episode where your entire life you would get ratings on no matter what you did when you were walking down the street, if you got into a car, if you went to a restaurant and all that. And then they started to notice that as your rating went down, your opportunities in life became less and less. It was really good.
I mean, that's kind of how it goes in the law of attraction. That's kind of how it goes.
Yeah.
We see it in court, where one of the smartest piece of advice I got from my first judge was treat everybody that works in court like gold, because you're only there as a litigant or as a lawyer. That deputy every day, the person who answers the phone every day, and they speak very intimately with the powerful people. Nothing will piss off the powerful people like you treating the non-public power like shit. And it's absolutely ridiculous. We see these jerk lawyers time and time again be rude unnecessarily to anybody that isn't a judge. And it's like, dude, you're killing yourself. Treat people really well. It really will give you the opportunities to go succeed. And it finds happiness, and happiness attracts. If you've got the big smile on your face, the other big smiles find you. And that's super important with dynamics.
Yeah. It's the law of attraction. It literally is a law in the universe.
All right, Nikki, what is your favorite television show of all time? What do you think is the best television show of all time?
God, honestly, I don't really know if I have one, because I am always fishing for new shows. But
wrong. The answer is Game of Thrones.
I mean, I really
Everyone.
enjoyed like Breaking Bad. The only reason I saw Game of Thrones is because an ex made me watch it every day, and I was like, oh god. But it was good.
That's why you hate Breaking Bad. A man ruined it for you.
Oh, I love Breaking Bad. I'm saying.
Oh, sorry, Game of Thrones.
I said no, and I don't dislike Game of Thrones. I enjoyed it. I just wouldn't have. I don't know. I wouldn't have really watched it if it wasn't for someone else. To my point of, I'm fishing for new shows to watch. Because like I love South Park and Curb Your Enthusiasm and like Friend reruns or Married with Children, or like I like things like that are like more old school. It's hard for me. There's so much out right now that I'm trying to find new things to watch that's actually going to hold my attention.
It's a different marketplace because, you know, I grew up before DVRs. Like Thursday night TV was Thursday night TV. You could only watch it on Thursday. Otherwise, you had to wait till it was in reruns, and you were never going to see that one again.
My favorite show growing up.
Walker, Texas Ranger, the successor to Airwolf, was very similar to that. Another classic, you know, rough and tough, bad guys, good guys. I love that kind of rote, you know, here's what the plot's going to look like. Let's go enjoy this. It's not going to be too hard.
What about you, Franz?
Oh, so I am one of those guys that loves Seinfeld. And I do like Larry David, and I like Larry David's spirit. But I like. Say again.
Didn't age well. We just,
to be fair, to be fair, a lot of things don't age well in today's society. But the fact that the show really was about nothing. I thought that there was a interesting but honestly, my pick is not Seinfeld. Big Bang Theory. I like Big Bang Theory.
Excellent.
Interesting.
That is.
And it's one of those where it's like I can watch it with my 9-year-old and not have to worry about like is there going to be a bad word, or it's just it's good dorky comedy. Maybe I'm projecting my inner dork.
You definitely can't watch Breaking Bad with a 9-year-old and trying to explain the difficulties of making and selling meth.
You see, Fisher, it's about cost. It's about supply and demand curve. See, there's a demand for a higher quality of methamphetamine that no, you can't do that.
Do The Wire and break them in on it. You know. Yeah.
I need a lawyer. I need a lawyer to explain methamphetamine.
Yeah. My son's like, I want to be Omar when I grow up, and I was like, me too, son. Me too.
we are.
Countdown. Does that count as a TV show? Like.
Now, my TV show, not too many people watch. Did anybody watch News Radio?
Loved it. Dave Foley, Phil Hartman.
Yeah, Phil Hartman. It had Joe Rogan as like a 14-year-old.
Yep.
And it has one of the greatest just characters, just pure the Mr. Root, and I'm now trying to remember.
Jimmy James.
Yes, Jimmy James is one of the greatest, if not the greatest, television character ever written.
You know what's funny?
Who I want to be when I grow up.
We had an NBC executive on a few episodes ago when they were talking about that run that NBC had when they had News Radio, Frasier, Friends, Seinfeld, and he was rattling off in all these TV shows, and I was like, that really was sort of like Nikki said with the older school, that golden age of TV in the late 80s going into the kind of the late 90s, where, I mean, now we heard from that same guy that there's between 400 and 600 shows being greenlit for the next 18 months, where, okay, that's good for there's never been a better time to be an actor or an actress. But on the other hand,
the money's dropping out because of there's so much content, but it's getting something Nikki just talked about, where we don't all share the same show. Like when I was growing up, you had 4 or 5 network that really you were going to watch. Everybody else is going to watch the same things. Now, my kid doesn't watch the same things because you just watch what you want to watch. And my kid, we watch the classic 90s sitcoms. Some of our friends do, but some of our friends are like, I don't have any cultural relevance to that.
So let's say Nikki gets on a hit show, which could happen at any minute. Another hit show, Nikki. Let's say Nikki gets on another hit show. And I just don't watch, like, I'm one of those guys where I binge watch once it gets to like Netflix or Amazon, and I'll watch all of Nikki's season 1 in one like weekend. There are a lot of shows that the way I discovered the show is on streaming, right? It's not every week. It's like Josh said, but like I can't possibly watch every single show that's on Netflix. I can't. I can't. I don't have the bandwidth for it. And so, go ahead.
Oh, I said, and it's just a waste of time.
It's my issue with YouTube, where I'm a YouTube junkie. YouTube with no ads is one of the greatest things in the world because it comes in 10-second bursts. It comes in 2-hour bursts. If I want to watch 5 hours of an old British archaeology show, I'm totally into that. Like,
the show has one view.
Oh, dude, I've watched some stuff on Netflix, or sorry, on YouTube that's but again, it's just to me, and I think that creates separation and wall culturally because we don't have it. And then it reflects on me when I'm trying to say something using a cultural touchstone reference that now people don't get it. That's why memes are so important, because memes are the most broad cultural touchstone out there right now for mass communication. Everybody knows, even my 80-something-year-old mom recognizes memes and the way that they are to communicate. But I love you guys. I would love to stay longer. I just can't. But Nikki, it was awesome to see you. You guys keep talking. I'm sure we will all bump into each other soon. But I got to talk about Diddy now for the entire rest of the evening. Nikki, you got any last Diddy word? You've hung out with Diddy, yay or nay?
I have seen him. I haven't really hung out with him.
That's an excellent answer.
That was an excellent.
I recommend you. That's the answer.
Was perfect. The length of the pause where she's like contemplating. Yeah, we've been.
We're at that thing, but no, I have never been out of a public sit with Diddy.
You're like, you know, Puff Daddy. You're like, oh, the musician? No, I don't know him.
From what I'm hearing on the inside, this is gonna be really 1,000 bottles of baby oil and lube were taken. Like I've seen some search warrant returns. I've never seen 1,000 bottles of lube.
And before Josh leaves, real fast, Josh, what's interesting is the unnamed conspirators were complicit in the entire thing.
Jennifer Lopez.
The crappy phone calls going on right now. Oh my.
Bunch of lawyers are making tons of money right now.
Yes. So this is all going to come out. You can decide how you want to handle it, but you were there. You're super famous and you didn't tell anybody about it, and bad happened. How are you going to deal with it? That unbelievably fascinating from a crisis communications perspective.
We don't want to name any names, but she might be known as Jenny from the block.
Listen, he hung out with a lot of people. He hung out with a couple of my friends. He hung out with a couple ladies that I know.
Well, the running joke with Cat Williams and Diddy, that there's a certain amount of air of truth of he would just allegedly he would offer large sums of money to.
Yes. The one that's going to really peel people's poor Mr. Justin Bieber is going to at some point be asked some incredibly uncomfortable questions.
Good. Take him away. He's one of Canada's.
No, hey, he's Canadian. You're supposed to like him. All right. I'll have you talk to you later. Bye.
Here's an interesting cultural phenomenon, though. I will say real fast. I teach one law school class at a local law school. One class, it's criminal procedure. And I started the class today with a smirk saying, well, they've indicted Diddy. And 2 of my 20-something-year-old law students who remain nameless, they know who they are, were like, who's Diddy? And I was like, fair. I said, okay, fair question. He's going by other names, Patrick. I go through the litany and they're like, no, who's that? And they were dead serious. Mm-hmm. And it got like my later 20-something-year-old law students were looking at him like, you don't know who P. Diddy is? Like you don't know, like. And so I posed the question, Derek and Nikki. I said, okay, who's P. Diddy? Like, anybody, jump on out there. And one of my innocuous quiet students went on for 5 minutes about his resume. Like, not the bad stuff, but just like producing. Yeah. And I'm like, and I felt in that moment, I was like, I can't tell if there's something wrong that they don't know who Diddy is, or if there's something wrong that I, at my age, know who Diddy is.
Dude,
I couldn't.
The younger
Oh.
generation, because we have a bunch of like younger 20s, mid 20s people that work here, and then we took them out for drinks and food one time. We were going through all of our favorite movies, and they were rattling off movies I'd never heard of. And then we brought up like Harrison Ford. We brought up Patrick Swayze and Roadhead. They had no idea who any of these people were. Like that's
You
just
didn't know who Patrick Swayze was?
they didn't know who Patrick Swayze was.
Dirty Dancing.
Yeah, Dirty Dancing is one of my favorite movies ever.
Everybody's favorite movie, even though it's kind of creepy when you look back on it.
There's some creepy elements to it, but the one-liners, nobody puts baby in the corner or backs baby in the corner. Those are beautiful one-liners, man.
I use it all the time.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, yeah, that's the thing. And you know, you guys earlier were saying like, oh, well, there's so much content being made right now, so it's a great time to be an actor, or someone said that. And I'm like, I don't know, because when you go out and then you say you're an actress, and then the next thing they say is, oh, have I seen anything you've been in?
What have you been in?
What have you been in? And it's like, have I seen any? And I literally ask them, I go, honestly, I have no idea what you watch, and there's so much out there. So how would I know? Like, if you don't know who I am, then I don't care. Like, I don't need to tell you who I am.
But there's this stratification, right, of working actress,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And then there's like the Ben Affleck, the Will Smith, there's, you know, and those guys are working too. But
Mm-hmm.
like the reality, what kind of question is that? Have you been in anything I would know? Or you know, like,
yeah, it's an awkward next question that
now,
I deal with.
I will say I watched, and back to your question, Derek, because I was thinking about this question before we started recording. I spend more time watching podcast streaming. Like Joe Rogan gets more of my time than normal TV. Like,
yeah, actually, me too.
Yeah,
YouTube and things like that get more of my time than TV shows now. And that's why I'm like saying, that's why I was like, hey, tell me if there's something I need to watch, because all I really know and love are the things that I used to watch back in the day that I could tell you all about. But like nowadays, I don't know what's out there really, unless it's like something I know I want to be on. Or it's like, I want to be a superhero, so I know I'm going to know these, you know, these types of movies and or shows. But other than that, if it's not a genre I'm trying to literally as an actress work towards, then I'm not really sure.
It's funny. I'd be terrible to ask, because I know the Franz had a power outage because they had that hurricane in Louisiana. So my wife and I were on a rewatch of Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel. So I was like, your son's almost old enough to watch that.
Yes.
And think about like the unpredictability of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. The movie was an okay movie. Like it I don't know if I'd go cult classic, but no. Like it did. But like the show based on the movie was like amazing, and it was great. And the spin-off shows were great. I mean, I grew up watching. I mean, I hate to admit this, but I'm not like sorry about it. Angel, Buffy. We watched those shows.
Saved by the Bell.
Dude, I totally Zach Morris. I wanted to be Zach Morris so bad.
I wanted to be Slater, man. He was so cool.
I love that. Oh my god, I love Boy Meets World. I mean, I grew up on Boy Meets World.
So there was wasn't there a sequel or a new show World? That was? Yeah. I don't know what happened with that, but it was like they were adults and they had a kid. I don't know if that made it or not. But yeah.
Seasons. I actually auditioned for an episode one time, but yeah. But so I know it happened, but I don't know how popular.
Okay.
Nikki, aren't you at the point where you're because like we had, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Danielle Vasanova when we had her on, and she was talking about some of the stuff that you have to audition for. At your point in your career, aren't you a little bit past that, because you've done enough things, you've been in enough movies and TV shows where people kind of know what they're going to get? Like that's got to be odd for you to say, like, listen, I'm relatively well known. Like, why do I have to read for a part?
I mean, honestly, people who are even super famous or A-listers have to audition still. I mean, honestly, it comes down to the people in the room who aren't necessarily like the actor or like super, super creative. They are the ones also who make decisions. So their imagination is a little narrow. So you have to like show them that you can be this character. But I will say my manager is always very impressed. He's like, you are the only person that I represent that gets more offer roles than like having to audition. And like, so that's pretty cool.
Good
but
on you.
yeah, that's really, cause yeah, I'm like, I feel the same way, but then I also have to think about, like I just said, the people who have been in this business for like ever, and they still have to audition because, there's still different tiers, everyone has to.
So I have to ask this question because I'm not an actor, but one of the turning points in my career as a criminal defense attorney was when I had the financial bandwidth to be able to say no. Like, hey, I don't want to take this case, or I'm not a good fit for you. Versus like in the early days where it's like Circle K hot dog, the rent's due on the 1st, and like, yeah, I will take your case. So what is it like when you get to that point where it's like you have real options? Like you've Nikki, you've made it, right? So like you have the ability to say, no, I'm good. I don't want to do that. Or I'll try out for this, but I'm okay if I don't make it, because what is that like? What is it like turning that corner in your industry?
Honestly, in my opinion, it's a lot of ease, because then you're not stressed out all the time. And actually, I just turned down a movie recently. I was only like a week away of going, and they wouldn't meet me in the middle of my comfortability level. And I said, you know what? Like, no, thank you. I appreciate it. And everyone honestly was on my side, like the director, the casting, everyone was like, I don't know why they won't budge. And so I was like, I just respectfully need to bow out, because they aren't paying me enough to stress like this. And they aren't paying me enough to do all that. And I would love to be a part of it, because I love to work and I love the people I was going to work with. But at the same time, I have to own my truth. And usually it's funny. Usually when I do deny a project like that for whatever reason, whether it's like, somebody, I've had this happen a couple times where like I get offered the girl who dies first type of role. And I'm like, I'm a little past that in my career. Thank you.
I'd like to speak in this movie.
Right. Yeah, I have like a line. And then they come back, honestly, and I've had this where they come back and they literally offer me the lead role. And I'm just
Really?
like,
So it's not a power move, but it is a power move. Like,
yeah, right. But it's also it's also what we were going back to earlier about kind of positivity, and what we put out, we receive back. And it's like, if you have that self-respect and that self-worth, and you stand up for yourself, then, people are going to start seeing you in that light, and they're going to be, they're going to actually believe that role of you, as opposed to the one that they were pinholing you on. And they're going to be able to expand their mind about you. And I think and also it allows me to have extra time to now do my podcast, Longevity Junkie. So I love being able to have the freedom to or travel, which I get to do a lot of. And I do that for passion, and also expanding my cultural awareness, and also just finding new ways to be healthy, because the whole world seems a bit far advanced than the United States in some areas, like food. Yeah, right. So it's like I get to do more of the things I love, and then I get to become more positive, and I get to be more grateful in the world. And then from there, it just all generates back. So honestly, I feel like it just becomes more like cash in the bank, in another sort of liquidity.
See, one of the last questions, because I know we'll get on with it, but I always think, do you ever kick yourself for passing on anything? Because every time I come across this story, somebody told me a while ago that Matt Damon was offered Avatar, but he was filming Elysium at the time, which, let's face it, that wasn't a great movie. But the Avatar deal came with like 1.5 percent back end money, which when he did the interview, he said it would have been about $340 million. He turned
wow.
Ethan Hawke. So I love watching videos of actors who are talking about stuff they turned down. Ethan Hawke turned down Will Smith's part in Independence Day.
Wow.
I can't even imagine Ethan Hawke in that part, but he was talking about it, and it was like, I thought that was a ridiculous role, and this, that, and the other. And he's like, now I'm kicking myself, but so, yeah, I'm totally intrigued about this question, Nikki.
One other one that stuck out was Eminem turned down Training Day. which oddly enough that you brought up that Ethan Hawke got. Ethan
Yeah.
Hawke was the second pick.
Wow. I mean, I feel like that, but you have to understand that if that person got that role or said yes to that role, it would be a completely different vibe on set, a different movie entirely, way differently acted. I mean, it wouldn't maybe be the exact like star movie that it became. I mean, so I feel like everything happens for its reason. So I have not regretted turning anything down, because what I turned down is literally something that does not align with me, and I'm great with that. And I never go in the past to try and find what happened with that role or anything, because I'm too focused on present and future.
It is kind of like a different, like, multiversal question, right? Because, like, you're absolutely right. I can't imagine, like, okay, the classic example is Harrison Ford is my Indiana Jones. Growing up, I had the lunchbox. He's Han Solo, he's Indiana Jones.
He's a bad.
Tom Selleck was up for the role in Indiana Jones.
I
cannot imagine Tom Selleck. And it's not that, and I like Tom Selleck as an actor. I love him but I think you're absolutely, it would be a totally different movie series, right? And it maybe for whatever reason, it doesn't become the big thing that it's interesting you say that, though, because I don't think of it normally in those terms, like somebody else playing the role. And the only time we really see that is when they do different iterations of the same story or movie over like a 20, 30-year period, where it's like, okay, they're remaking this movie and now this person's going to play the part.
Which doesn't really work, especially when you're going with like iconic 70s, 80s, and 90s movies. Like we were just talking about, I watched the remake of RoboCop. The first RoboCop is a perfect movie that did not have to. Total Recall, the remake, should not have been remade. The original is a perfect movie.
Well, so did you watch that perfect movie that people like bank on the popularity, and that's why they remake it?
Yeah.
So did you watch have you and your wife watched The Fall Guy yet?
I've seen it.
I haven't.
I never watched the show growing up. I have two older brothers that were in the age bracket where they could have watched the show. I didn't watch the show growing up. The movie was amazing.
It was fun.
The movie was fun. It was a very fun kind of rom-com-y, like weird, quirky, like interesting, different. Like would I go back and watch the show now? Well, if it's on Netflix and I can just click a button, maybe. But like there are remakes of stuff that I'd never watched the original. That I'm missing that cultural like component, but it has to kind of be that way, because look, the fact is, if you remake something that's like 40 or 50 years old, odds are you weren't alive when that was on the first time around anyway. I mean, it just
it's trying to just fit in with the decade or the genre, like the generation that it is, and that's
Perry Mason. Growing up, we watched black and white Perry Mason. The Perry Mason that they remade, the true crime noir Perry Mason that's on which network is it? Is it Cinemax or Showtime? One of the two. Totally different concept. Both beautiful shows in their own respects. Both great stories. Just apples and oranges. It's.
Yeah. All right. Well, sadly, I think we're going to have to wrap this up. So for more Joshua Schiffer, maybe you need advice. Maybe you need a lawyer. Maybe you got caught with, 1,000 bottles of lubrication the police took from your house. Check him out on Twitter at LawyerSchiff, on Instagram at LawyerSchiff, or at www.jdgrouplaw.com, or just reach out to me for another heaping spoonful of the great Franz Borghardt. Check him out on Twitter at Borghardt Law, on Instagram at Franz Borghardt, and for legal stuff at www.borghardtlawfirm.com. And for more of the fantastic Nikki Leigh, check out her new podcast, Longevity Junkie, about all the ways you can live a longer and healthier life. Settle in for a movie. Butch vs. Sundance is available on Tubi. Silencer and Open Marriage on Amazon Prime. Go follow her on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. The incredible Nikki Leigh. Guys, thank you so much. That was a blast.
That was fun. Thank you so much.